art is a wonderful thing. To me, the act of creation is one of the most incredible things a person can do, whether that's a song, a painting, a building, fucking this. It is a reflection of the artist. It is a time capsule into another era. It is truly indescribable how genuinely wonderful and beautiful I think that art is. Well, except for the shitty art. Because art is made by human beings who famously sometimes do bad things, art is sometimes bad. Usually due to either lack of skill, like a shitty SoundCloud rapper trying to do their best Eminem impression,
I go to the home museum where I left my penis,
or due to lack of effort, like a YouTube slot machine that has no real substance behind any of its videos. Not like this one. This one's not like that, though. And usually that art is bad by accident. And my personal definition for bad art is art that doesn't elicit the emotion the creator originally intended. That's where funny bad things come from. If something is supposed to be epic or serious or sad, but it makes you laugh instead, that's bad because it didn't do the thing it was supposed to do. It all depends on context. But what if an art piece does exactly what it meant to do, elicits the emotions that it's supposed to, only that emotion is that what you're watching is the worst thing in existence? If an art piece is supposed to make you uncomfortable, uneasy, or cringe in the same way that another art piece would do by accident, should we rate them in the same way? How much does intent matter? I don't know. On an unrelated note, check out this movie I found. This is a film from the Philippines called Missed Connections, a rom-com detailing a love triangle between three people, May, Norman, and Julia. Mark is also there, kind of, but not really. We'll get to him. And this seemingly throwaway film is what made me ask this philosophical, pretentious art nerd question. Because on first watch, I was like, oh my god, this film is so cringe. Oh my god. But on rewatch, I thought about it a little more, and now I'm confused because I don't know whether it's a good or bad movie. I don't actually care about any other piece of media or the importance of intent when trying to decide if something's good or not. I just want to stop thinking about this movie, okay? We start with an introduction to our protagonist, May. She is seen in a grocery store, staring longingly at a couple sniffing some laundry detergent, like she's hurt by their very existence. She then gets a call from a customer of hers. Apparently, she owns a small business selling t-shirts, and she's not that good at running it. Her website sucks, and her customer service isn't that great either. She freaks out at the customer for understandably canceling his order, and walks off, dejected. In her disgruntled mood, she moves through the market and encounters just some guy, I guess? She mistakes him for an employee, so she asks him to hand her a can of anchovies, and then rants to him about how lonely she is.
Buti pa yung sardinas, no? Kahit siksikan sila dyan, okay lang. At least hindi sila nag-iisa.
Because grocery shelvers are also licensed therapists. We all know this. When she realizes he was in fact not a lowly maggot, but instead a part of refined society like she is, she apologizes. And immediately falls in love. Also, what? Yeah, so it took her like 2 seconds of looking at him in an awkward conversation to become fully infatuated with this stranger. And if this weirdo look isn't enough, she fully stalks him to checkout and tricks him into buying a heart-shaped pastry for her. This is the first time out of all of the time that May's face reminds me of some sort of unknowable ancient gods, in the way that every millisecond it changes into some completely different, completely contorted version of her face. The guy leaves before May can pay him back for the snack, so she sprints into the parking lot. When she doesn't see him, she makes a post on the Missed Connections app, basically Craigslist's misconnection part, but that's all it is. Once the post is made, she wiggles like a caterpillar, and then Naruto runs out of frame. Cut to May's aunt's house? Garden? Workspace? I don't really know. Where her aunt brags about how viral her TikTok is going, which, wait, sorry, is that a trend? To just kind of do one of these with objects you like in your hands? This is how we feel. While she's complaining about how her life has no purpose, May scrolls through the Missed Connections app where, look at that, the guy made a Missed Connections post about May. That's so incredibly
It's
lucky.
not about her.
What?
What? Huh? I said it's...
Get out of my room!
Okay, sorry.
She scampers to go tell her aunt, and her aunt immediately goes for the fucking jugular.
Eh mabuti naman nakalimutan mo na si Mark. Nagpaparamdam pa ba yun?
Holy shit, stone cold. Mark is May's ex, who cheated on and then broke up with her, and she is for sure over him.
Well, parang affected ka pa rin.
Ako affected
Hindi
ta?
na-realize yun.
Excuse me, of course not, no?
2 seconds later.
Kung sakaling may ginawa lang ako, baka kami pa rin hanggang ngayon.
For sure. But Mark's not important right now, okay? May arrives back to her messy home and obsesses over oh, okay, Norman. It's Norman. She obsesses over Norman, and later that night, the both of them agree to meet up the next day for lunch to follow this missed connection. Wait, sorry, is that her ex? Mark? Are they still together? What?
No.
Jesus Christ!
They're not dating.
What are you still doing here?
Okay, sorry.
No, they're not together still. The answer is in fact far more explainable. May is just fully hallucinating. Mark is not real and is instead a figment of May's mind. And I'm gonna be honest, I am not sure that she knows that. Look, I'm no expert on psychotic disorders or hallucinations in general, but he is not treating that motherfucker like he is not real. Like, he fucking steals her phone. Interacting with the real world, which I feel like he shouldn't be able to do as a figment of her brain, but it just goes to show how real it feels for May, how vivid of a hallucination this is. Anyways, it's very clear what part of May's psyche Mark is here to represent. Her insecurities and self-doubt in regards to finding love, or even connection with someone in general. He calls into question if Norman would even like May. May doesn't want to hear this, so she throws a pillow at Mark, and he disappears. It only gets more confusing from here, just so you know. It's the next day now, and Norman is awaiting his date, who is definitely the person who he thinks it is. May walks in, acts like Norman's fangirl, and oh no! She's not the person he thought she was at all! He reveals May was not his missed connection, and there was actually a different woman he met at the grocery store the same day he met May that he was hoping for. May apologizes. Too much, actually. Stop it. And Norman gets guilted into having lunch with her. During this lunch, she does not get any less creepy.
Thank you,
Stop. Stop touching him. Stop. But for some reason, even though Norman is visibly uncomfortable, he still stays. Not only does he stay, but he offers to completely revamp her shitty website for... Hold on, let me check how much this is. So that's charity work. May walks Norman back to her house. Norman is clearly uncomfortable going with May to her house, but May is so insistent and oblivious to Norman's discomfort that he can't really say no. Norman gets there and gets to work. It takes a few days to finish the website, and in those few days, the two of them grow closer. Not only does Norman work on the website, but the two of them also clean up May's house together and do a cute little photo shoot, and that whole time, they have no chemistry, like it's so bad. May tries to flirt, but Norman does not reciprocate once. Even when the music gets all cute and romantic, Norman's face gives all the information that is needed. This is a one-way street of affection, and May does not understand that. She does, kind of. Mark does. And Mark tells her that. Mark makes sure to inform May that Norman does not see her in the same way that she sees him. But she doesn't listen. She doesn't care, I think.
Mo na yan, inaabuso mo na eh.
Kamingay, gigising yung mahal ko.
No, he won't. He's in your head. So she doesn't listen to Mark and continues to break every single boundary in existence. Don't smell him! After finishing the website, there's not really much reason for Norma to stick around, to continue to hang around May, or continue to be friends with her at all. So she, with some prompting from her imaginary friend, tells Norman how she really feels. He rejects her, to which she has a completely normal and understandable response. In his rejection, though, one of his reasons is a bit of a surprise. His misconnection, the one he posted about, responded to him, for real this time, probably. And he wants to follow that. But with a hand outstretched, he proposes that they stay friends. Which seems understandable, kind, even. May, however, doesn't seem to think so, as she is next seen complaining about it to her aunt.
Masaya daw siya kasama ako, pero friends. Pero kikilalanin pa rin niya yung missed connection niya. Hindi ko talaga gets yung labo.
She is truly on some Kelly Kapoor type shit.
Daryl Philbin is the most complicated man that I have ever met. I mean, who says exactly what they're thinking?
She goes on to describe the relationship she thinks she has built with Norman, which is based on nothing, and goes to show how delusional she really is. She is convinced Norman is actually in love with her. She can't be the only one feeling that way, right? Right?
She is.
Fuck off! Okay, so full disclosure, my battery went out of charge, but now the lighting's better because there's a big light over there. Kind of exciting. On the plus side, business is picking up. May is selling multiple shirts. It's a miracle. While packing shirts, she sends a quick text to Norman to express her gratitude for picking up sales. While he doesn't respond, she packs shirts with more force! Until he calls and is like, "Sorry, I can't talk right now. I'm actually on the way to my dream girl as we speak." And May is like, "What? No." And she's so distraught that she forgets how to end a phone call, and instead pretends that there is line interference, makes silly mouth noises, and frantically hangs up.
Norman?
God, I wish this worked in real life. Norman and the real grocery girl, Julia, meet and hit it off almost immediately. Somehow. I'm gonna be honest, the first impression was not the greatest by Norman.
Julia.
Norman.
Sorry, what's that?
Norman.
Oh, okay, got it. Wow, okay, I got it. But after that, it was genuinely kind of cute. They drink together and look giggly and in love and so sweet and oh no, honey. May watches from outside in the rain, while she is completely dry by the way, and sobs for a second before steeling herself and going home to jealously stalk this new girl and complain more. She's so healthy. Mark swoops in and yet again completely shits all over May and her self-worth, while also bringing up some good points, mainly that she was never Norman's first choice, so there's no point in being jealous. Like, I would understand if you had a shot, but you were never an appetizer, much less an entree, so why the fuck are you getting so mad? Like, you did not even have a chance. May doesn't hear that second part though, and decides she needs a haircut and a makeover in order to compete with Julia. But she's a goddamn ice queen, because not only does she look up makeup tutorials that Julia posted online, but she physically goes to Julia's hair salon for no other reason than the sick, cruel irony that is forcing your enemy to unknowingly give you the blueprint to their downfall. And by the way, Julia is fantastic. Like, she is so nice to May. She was seemingly fully booked and on break or something, but was still more than happy to squeeze May in on her busy schedule, and every word that comes out of her mouth is supportive and energizing. And May sees that too, and starts to rethink how she views Julia, how she views her and Norman's relationship, and I'm lying to you. I'm lying to you so hard. May actually calls her a slut through the disguise of softer verbiage, and talks about how there's this boy she likes, but some harlot is trying to steal him away from her. Julia is supportive and gives May more confidence to try and destroy her relationship. Oh my god. Now made beautiful, May asks Norman if he wants to hang out, and by the end of the conversation, is completely out of breath.
My way.
What did you do to make you heave and hoe like that, You did that, and that's it. Get your fucking act together. They meet at a game shop, where Norman and the boys are playing this movie's version of Magic the Gathering. May tries to join in and gets iced the fuck out. One of the boys plays an elven friendship card, to which Norman retaliates with the romantic spark, which wins. I don't know why, don't ask me. May, always one to make the situation awkward and cringeworthy and about herself, argues that no, friendship should win because sparks go out after a while in a relationship. Hold on, that's not the argument they're trying to make here. She's obviously equating it to her real life, but nobody else knows that. Norman's like, spark does more damage, so it wins. But May rebuts with, friendship is more important in a real relationship though, so... Bitch. Jarek, who is my king, tries to speak, but May shuts him down, not once, but twice. I feel so bad for him. After the game, Norman waits with May for an Uber, I think? This scene's not important, except for the fact that Norman invites May to an event Julia's a part of, so the two can meet.
Hi, editing Mickey here. Julia's an influencer. I forgot to mention that in the video, but that's important. It's important that she's like a beauty influencer, so remember that. Bye.
Also, Norman wants to set May up with Jarek, which makes me think that in this world there is not a person with a semblance of emotional intelligence, because who looks at this
Tension, di ba? Kaya nga kilig eh. Di ba? Kasi nakakakilig.
Legend, hindi naman kausap eh.
and says, "Ugh, they'd be great together." Anyways, the party rolls around, and Norman, May, Julia, and Jarek all meet up to chat. Jarek tries to, at least.
Ganda naman ang hat mo. Parang painter.
May and Julia get some one-on-one time where Julia offers to do May's hair again at her own event. She's taking time out to make May feel more comfortable, and to make her feel wanted and appreciated. It's this small act of kindness that is a turning point for May's character. She realizes how small-minded and stupid her previous judgments were, and I tricked you again! You're so gullible! She just talks about how out of place Norman feels at this party, and how wrong he is for Julia, and how Julia could have anyone, so why settle for Norman? Which is not the diss you think it is. No, you're too sexy. You're too sexy to be with that ugly guy. Leave him for me instead. Julia gets her revenge, though. While May is staring for truly too long at the couple, Julia notices and gives a cold, confident glare right back before making out with Norman in front of May. Honestly, May's taking this pretty well, and oh no. Never mind. During the event, some partygoers had mentioned some dirt in Julia's past that they were so glad she could move on from. So naturally, in her inebriated state, May does some sleuthing to figure out what that could be. And lo and behold, Julia had been accused of cheating 2 years ago. But there's something new in the mix, something awful, something completely career-ruining that May finds. And it's Julia, out with her friends. How did that article get those photos and videos? I thought it was just Julia and her friends, but I guess one of them's a filthy rat. In her drunken stupor, though, May creates a new social media account that's whole purpose is to be a fucking hater. She accuses Julia of cheating again with all of the photos and videos she took from that one article. But this shouldn't work, right? I mean, let's be honest, there's no shot anyone cares about a hater account posting photos and videos of Julia partying with her friends with no actual evidence of her cheating, but makes that accusation anyways. There's no shot anyone gives a fuck.
Antipatika! Wow! Yes! Cancelled na si Julia! Appear!
Oh. I stand corrected. By the way, Julia has like 38,000 followers, which isn't bad, but how the fuck did this thing go so viral? Back at her aunt's little garden, May pretends she's actually in the right for protecting Norman from that, streetwalker. But her aunt fully sees through her. Her aunt calls her ass out and reminds her of when a woman got between her and Mark. Reminds her of the pain she felt then and accuses her of doing the same to Norman and Julia. The two argue, and May finally cracks. She's so dependent on Norman because she needs someone to give her external validation, external love, because she can't give it to herself. Well, okay, still pretty normal rom-com stuff. Getting a little dark, but that's not abnormal. It's just not as upbeat and lighthearted as I thought it would be, but still nothing out of the ordinary yet. And this revelation doesn't just come out of nowhere. I mean, the fact that she still hallucinates her ex-boyfriend who cheated on her to constantly berate and insult her kind of points to the fact that maybe she doesn't like herself too much. But this is the first time in the film that it's really taken seriously. Besides a little talk with Mark that went a bit serious too, but that's not important and I skipped over it. So now we check in with Norman. How's Norman doing? Not doing his best, and he's invited May over to comfort him in his time of need. May pretends to feel bad, pressures him not to talk to Julia anymore, and walks him home. A true friend. On the walk home, Norman brings up his sister's wedding's dinner rehearsal, which is coming up soon. Julia was supposed to be his guest, but now that they're broken up, whatever will he do? May offers. Obviously, May offers to do it. As May gets ready for this practice dinner, Mark insults her more while doing his afternoon yoga. As punishment, she stuffs him in a box so he can't ruin her great night. That all falls apart almost immediately when Norman introduces her to his family as his friend. Who could have seen that coming? Apparently, not May, who grows visibly uncomfortable and does not stop staring into the distance for what I can only guess is hours. This is the first time in the film her face stops constantly shifting. That's how you know she's fucked up. Norman asks if there's a problem, and May expresses, "What if I'm not okay with just being friends?" Norman thinks for a second, but before he can respond, Julia arrives. Just in the house, I guess? Did she break in? When she sees May, she calls her a bitch in the coolest way possible.
Anong ginagawa mo rito?
And leaves. Norman gets up and chases her outside, and May follows sheepishly behind. Julia starts her final tear into May, one that, may I add, is so satisfying to watch. No one besides Mark, who is make-believe, and her aunt to a very, very small degree, has given May any sort of pushback for the shitty things she does. Norman is too awkward, Jarek is into it, maybe?
So, May, kumain ka na ba? Gusto mong kumain?
Kamaingay.
Okay.
But no one has stepped up to May until now. And holy shit does she step up. And here, May's public persona finally, completely shatters.
Hindi ikaw yung choice niya, kundi ako! Ako yung... Hindi nga totoo! Hindi nga! Ako kasi! Ako!
Now I know normally you're supposed to root for the main character, but... no. Watching her crumble is an incredible feeling, and so far, the best part of the movie. Julia storms out, and Norman also tears into May for ruining his relationship that he loved so dearly, and gets really genuinely upset. So obviously, the correct response for May is to no, don't kiss him, what? Norman tells her that he doesn't want to see her again, which is understandable, and leaves her outside alone. Okay, this is for sure not what I expected. I didn't think she'd be so awful, and I didn't think she would continue to be so awful. Like, I thought at some point, through her love for Norman, she'd realize how shitty she's treating him and the people around him, and that if she does love him so much, she should let him do what he wants to do. But no, they cut ties 30 minutes before the movie ends. Like, is that normal? Hello? Anyways, May arrives back at home, yells at her cat, and completely breaks down. After a day, a few days, a week, May is looking through old photographs of her and Mark and wonders why she is never enough for the people she loves. Mark appears again, though this time without any snarky remark or witty barb. This time, he's here to talk. He speaks to her genuinely about why he's still there, about why she hasn't stopped seeing him, and delivers this banger of a line.
Gusto mong masanay ng masakit, isa mabuhay mag-isa.
Like, wow. May tries to argue back, but Mark points to all her shit still lying around. She's living in a mess, and all of it is just to remind herself of the people who aren't in her life anymore. And Mark asks her if it's because it feels like they're still there. If that's the reason she never cleans up, because she can't handle being alone. May just tells him to shut up, which, let me tell you, does not work. He shifts his position, his eyes get crafty, and he gets mean. Steadily working his way up from genuine and kind but firm remarks detailing May's mental state to directly calling her a coward. This finally seems to snap May out of it, and out of frustration, she starts really cleaning up. She gets her garbage bag and,
Break na tayo!
May, dali na!
And apparently, after just one psychotic and deranged act, you feel completely better. Because over the course of the next few days, May cleans up, for real this time. Not just a little bit because her crush wanted her to, she fully commits to changing her environment. And as much as I've shit-talked May, this is the point where I start feeling for her. When I start feeling proud of her. Because that whole scene with Mark really laying into her and describing her issues and her problems, that's just her finally talking to herself. And when she burns Mark alive. She's not really killing anyone, I think. She's just doing something epic and climactic to show herself that she's over him, or at least that she will finally start trying to be. It's pretty powerful, to be honest. She travels back to her aunt's place and apologizes for not listening to her and ignoring any advice, and admits that the reason she was, and still is, so attached to the idea of having a partner is because she turns to self-loathing when she's alone. They have a cute little chat about being okay, being by herself, and it's so nice and sweet, and why couldn't the rest of the film be like this? Next, May finds herself back in the grocery store, but instead of running into her next obsession, she finds her old flame, Mark. And, okay, the writing's a little bit awkward here, but the sentiment is clear. May can have a normal conversation with someone who she used to love. She might not entirely be over him, but she's on the steps to get there. As time passes, her t-shirt business grows, she gets employees and a better workspace, and she's still improving herself. She sees Norman and Julia get back together online, and instead of reverting to her previous pain, she instead vocalizes joy that Norman is happy, and unfollows him on Instagram to show that she's also moving on from him. And finally, in a mirror to the first scene of the movie, May meets another cute boy while shopping for groceries. It's just as quick and meaningless as the first, and May seems to be dipping back into her old tendencies. She's about to make a post on missed connections when she stops herself and deletes the app for good. And that's wonderful. A nice little end to the movie. Do you see why I don't understand if I like this movie or not? Like, here, let's look at the reviews for this movie, which aren't the most favorable. See, my problem with these reviews are that, for the most part, they don't outline any real problems, at least in my opinion. Like, the main issues I see in these reviews is that, 1, Norman's character is strange and possibly mishandled. 2, May's acting was cringe. And 3, May was oblivious and a shitty pick-me girl. Now, the first critique, yeah, for sure. I didn't even mention this because it didn't matter, but Norman, at least in the beginning of the movie, cares very much for order and cleanliness. You see it in the first scene where he's introduced, where he's organizing some packaged food in the grocery store. You see it at the restaurant, where he sees a plate that has a stain on it and orders the waiter to bring it back. And at May's house, where he can't work because the place is just too messy. That last example was about 20 minutes into the movie, and then his little quirk is never brought up again. Is he supposed to be on the spectrum somewhere? Is he supposed to be neurodivergent in some way? I don't know. They throw it away. So 1 point for IMDb user reviews. 0 points for Lil Mickey. However, the other 2 issues, to me, I feel like that's part of the good part of the movie. That's the point, I feel like. May is supposed to be incredibly cringe. You're not supposed to agree with a lot of the actions she does, and she gets her comeuppance in the end. Like, yeah, she did all that. She was shitty, and because of that, she lost a valuable relationship in her life. And yeah, she didn't try to make amends, because the person she really has to apologize to, told her to never talk to him again. And she did try to reach out via text and apologize, but sometimes you have to understand that people sometimes just don't want you back in their life, and it's okay to just let it go. And yeah, May's mouth moved an incredible, ungodly amount, but in my opinion, that makes the character. I now cannot imagine if May stopped moving. I think she's like a shark, and if she stops moving, she dies. Now, this isn't to say that people can't dislike the movie for those reasons mentioned. Like, that's obviously completely fine, and if I argued that you can't like the movie, I would be stupid and dumb and even too pretentious even for myself. But to say the movie is quote-unquote bad and citing those reasons, I think that's incorrect. Like, just look at The Fountain. It's an art piece from famed French artist Marcel Duchamp, and it's a toilet. Its signature is kind of a pun, but not quite realized enough to really be counted as a pun. It's also just a random name. The artist behind it didn't make it, he bought it. And when it was initially entered into a huge art contest, the biggest that America had up to that point, it was suppressed. It was not shown. It was everything but outright rejected, because you couldn't get it outright rejected. It wasn't really considered art. Anyways, fast forward a couple decades. Now it's labeled the most influential art piece of the 20th century by 500 art world professionals. The next 2 were this piece by Picasso and this piece by Andy Warhol. Those 2 are pretty influential, I would think. So I guess almost objectively, The fountain is good art. But why? It's literally a urinal that people have they've peed in it. They've peed in the urinal. It didn't take any effort to procure, nor did it take any skill. So how can you consider it quality art? Well, because it's not supposed to take any effort or skill to make. It's supposed to challenge the meaning of what is good art. It's supposed to make you reflect on what criteria you use to judge art. It's supposed to, frankly, piss people off. Because anyone could have gone, bought a urinal, and called it art. But only this person did, and he did it for a fucking good reason. Now, am I comparing missed connections to the fountain? I mean, technically yes, but I do not mean there are two completely separate things. And actually, rewatching this movie and writing this script, I've come to a conclusion. This movie sucks. There are plenty of plot points that are brought up only to be forgotten about for the rest of the film. It doesn't make sense why Norman would agree to even be friends with May given her gross behavior. It feels like everyone dogpiles onto Julia for no reason at all. Like, look, there are plenty of flaws with this movie. But even so, I think it does something really cool. It makes a shitty character do shitty things. It is intentionally cringeworthy. The main character is a bad human being, but in the end she's still kind of sympathetic. There's a lot of ambition embedded in the script to make it more dark and emotionally poignant than I think it could have been. And just for the action of taking that risk, I think it deserves something for that. Okay, that's the end of the video. It was really cool to use this movie, like, to think about how I look at art. I didn't just want to make a video to shit on this movie, because even though it's not the best movie, right, I never want to make fun of something that someone obviously has put a lot of effort into. And, like, I will. Like, obviously I don't think that someone putting effort into something makes it exempt from criticism or critique or making funny comedic jabs at it, but I also want to make sure we all know that it is really hard to make anything. Just anything. Especially something that obviously required a lot of effort to be put in it, like this movie. So any of the people who worked on it or anything, I have nothing but respect for them. They made something kind of cool and exciting, and even though it wasn't the best in my opinion, I think it's still really cool to just make something. But yeah, this movie kind of made me rethink how I look at art and like how I measure it against other pieces, like etc., which I thought was pretty cool, and I wanted to share it with you. So thank you for watching. Thanks for coming over my little corner of the internet. I appreciate it. That's never gonna stop beeping. I could replace the batteries in the smoke detector, but I won't. Bye. Subscribe. Thank you.